All right, members. There we go. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to House Economic Development and Tourism, and appreciate y'all coming to the meeting this afternoon. A little late notice, but I'm glad to get this in for today. And we have two pieces of legislation on our agenda today, and you have that in your folder. And just with that, I'm going to turn it over. We have our illustrious Senate Rules Chairman with us today. And hey, Chairman Mullis, it's good to see you today. I really appreciate you being here. And just appreciate all you do, sir. With that, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you explain what we've got in front of us today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I so appreciate your accolades and want you to know that I feel the same with this distinguished group of legislators that I've worked with, many of them for a long time, and many of them are just now new friends of mine. And I know together we can change the state of Georgia to even a greater state. So thank you. All right. Now I bring to you, what's the number? We're going to do it. Which one are you doing first?
Well, we've got SR 135 and SB 142.
Okay. Now let me just start it. Then my good friends here are going to kind of finish up because they have amended it and changed it, and I'm good with moving it forward.
All right.
I think we have a great opportunity to continue to raise funds that will help people of Georgia. Now, the Senate Resolution 135 is a constitutional amendment, and that is designed to help foster funds for needed items. Now, they've changed it from what we did, but I'm okay with the changes because they've added, you got rural health care, broadband, and mental health, which we're so short in funding always. And then, of course, gap funding and regular funding for HOPE. And I think that meets the criteria. Now, there's a new piece, and Majority Whip can explain the new piece, but there's a sports commission created to use for enticing big sports events to our state, or maybe finding places like maybe the Sports Hall of Fame for giving them help in making, whatever that will be, but it will be a bipartisan kind of commission, and we'll work through that too. So that's the constitutional amendment. Now, in the Senate, we passed this a lot stronger than I ever anticipated. And I'll have to say that in my district, you would think this would be a bad thing, but I only had 2 people contact me and give me their opinion on it that was negative. The rest were positive. Now, most people don't understand this, but we already have gambling in Georgia through the Georgia lottery. That was passed by Zell Miller many years ago. And it has sent, I don't know how many, tens of thousands of students through college, through higher education, that would have never had the opportunity to go. Never. That kept them here in our state, kept them here at home, and have been successful in business and just family. So we owe a lot to the lottery. Now, the Hope Scholarship, we're going to adjust it and add more to gap funding and also the regular funding for Hope. We want to have all aspects to our children having ability to go to college or go to technical college with Hope Scholarship. So that is what I'm talking about with Senate Resolution 135, and I'll be glad to bow to my colleague, Trey and Kelly, and let him give more information if that's what you would like.
All right. Was our Majority Whip? Nope. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And Mr. Chairman, if you would,
Yes,
I have another committee to present in the House.
All right.
And these 2 gentlemen are going to speak for me on this bill, and the ironic enabling legislation and non-enabling legislation, which is the same bill.
Right.
It's ingenious, and I'd like to give my legal friend credit for that, Mr. Kelly, in putting such an incredible piece of legislation together.
All right.
But thank you for this.
Yes,
and thank
sir.
you, everyone. Let me know how I can help you.
I
And
will.
all you who have bills, we're going to have them on the floor soon. As you know, the wheels have come off the cart, but we're putting them back on,
Yes, sir.
and we're going to take care of everybody.
Well, we always appreciate you. I will see you tomorrow and I look forward to that. But I thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
sir.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, Chairman Stevens, if you want to come up and go through some specifics on this, that'd be fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, you've heard in the bill, and we're not going to talk about that first. We're going to talk about the constitutional amendment. The reason we decided not to move forward with our bill is we wanted to make sure that in the Constitution, we placed where this money was going to be spent, and that's very important. So if you'll flip over on 142, and I think the chairman took my bill with me. Have you got, it walked off with it. If you'll flip on the constitutional amendment to, thank you, over to where we dedicate the funds, if you will. That's on line 93. Starting on 93, you'll see that 40% of the money, 40.5% of the money derived from sports betting will go to Hope in the traditional fashion. That equates to about $61 million. 20.5% goes to needs-based. That's on line 95. That's $31 million. 12.5% goes to rural broadband. As you might know, we've had issues with rural broadband in the deserts across our state. That's going to amount to about $18 million. 12.5% is also going to go, and that's on, line 101 is going to go to mental health. A big need in our state, and this is going to plug some of that hole. For years, we've been trying to find a sustainable mechanism so that we could fund these major sporting events. So 4.5 million or 3% of these dollars are going to go to the Super Bowls and those major events that sustain that fund, if you will. So that's essentially all that the constitutional amendment does. Let me back up if I can, Mr. Chairman, remind folks that about 2.3 million Georgians are doing this today. All that we're doing is capturing the revenue on an activity that's currently going on. And we're going to place it in the Constitution, these numbers, so that we don't put it in a bill and it can be changed. This is going into our Georgia Constitution. And Mr. Chairman, we'll do the constitutional amendment first, and I'll ask there any questions.
All right, and I just would say on line 48 and 61, I just see a basic update from the Department of Technical and Adult Education to TCSG to reflect the current name of that agency. So that just seems to be more cleanup than anything else. All right, members of the committee, do we have any questions for Chairman Stevens on this resolution? And Chairman Nix, I see you. You should be. Oh.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Stevens, I don't think you are wondering what I'm going to say. You probably already know.
I do.
The biggest scandals in sports have always been by sports betting. You look at the Chicago White Sox of 19, you look at Pete Rose, you look at Paul Hornung, those people that couldn't control that. Yeah, this is being done, but I don't think we need to put our official stamp on it and say, yeah, we agree, this is just great stuff to do. And here again, you know, we just finished up day 37. We're bringing this in here in the afternoon, and we're going to sugarcoat it. We're not really calling it gambling, but we're going to fund all these things. I just don't think this is a great idea. I'm not going to belabor the point. You and I have talked about it. You're still my friend.
Absolutely.
But we disagree completely on this. And I'll just say this, these people that want to fund the Hope, if these lobbyists that had funded all this stuff for the last 15 years should put that money in Hope, we could fund it for the next 25 years. Thank you.
Appreciate that. And just in response, let me remind everybody, we're capturing revenue on something that's already going on.
All right, Representative Sains.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your work and your diligent work on this. I know personally know my constituents would be excited about the rural broadband and mental health component being added into the revenue items. I don't believe that when we passed our version in committee, it included college sports. Is that correct?
Correct.
When it comes to, and I think I'm addressing line 317 and then the correlated prohibition of college students in line 643. I know in Ohio, there's been some issues with.
You're on the bill, and I'm only doing the constitutional amendment.
All right, I apologize. I will
Hold
hold
that
that
thought.
question.
All right, thank you. Chairman Houston.
Quick question about the Hope. I know Zell Miller Hope Scholarship is completely funded, but just the regular Hope, if you know, on the Zell Miller, there's a little margin that's not paid. Will this pay for that little margin that's not paid for the real Hope like it used to be a long time ago?
It'll help. It'll add $61 million to it, and it'll begin to plug the hole.
It'll be plugged, and that's what the money will be used for, is to plug the hole in the original Hope Scholarship.
Oh, yeah. And I'll add also, we put in the reserve piece, Representative Stacey Evans, and I'll point that out to you. Is that in the constitutional amendment? It's on line, let me find that. I believe it's on line 51.
Yeah, I think she pointed that out.
Yeah. And that will greatly fill the hole from where we are so that we can go back to fully funded.
To fill fund. Thank you. Thank you for doing that.
All right, with that, I don't see any other questions. Well, no, wait a minute. I'm gonna recognize Representative Dukes. You had a question?
Yes, I do. I kind of get a late at get the notice late. And seems like it's a pretty big bill, and the Senate has weighed in with the constitutional amendment. All right, seems as if the Senate has weighed in. It will add to it, but certainly it won't be enough money to be able to make a real dent into it, because what they were saying is that it will require substantially more money than they are proposing. Unfortunately, I didn't have an opportunity to get the bill to go through with it. Our concern is this. This is what our concern is, particularly those of us who live in rural Georgia. And what we did is that we went along with the program as far as accepting the Zell Miller Scholars. When we went with the Zell Miller Scholars, what has happened is that in rural Georgia, particularly in the counties that I represent, which is Dougherty County, Miller County, Seminole County, and Baker County. Seminole County, Baker County, and Miller County gets no Zell Miller Scholars for the entire county. Dougherty County gets approximately 4.4% of their graduates are Zell Miller eligible. If I look throughout rural Georgia, when I go south, including Macon, it is less than about from 0 to 5% of my constituents in rural Georgia gets Zell. So where I am now is that at least the proposal that we came up with gave all of the money to Hope. It gives me a lot of concern with that, because when Zell came up with Hope, it was for kids in rural Georgia who had no hope. The way it is currently set up is that 75%, my kids now get with Hope, 75% of their tuition being paid to 95%, depending on the institution that they go to. I kind of feel like in rural Georgia, we went for the okie doke, because we don't get the money and we're the poorest part of the state. And now you're saying you want to do something else with the gambling money. I wish I had more time to go through this, and at least we can have some conversations on it, than for it
can I answer your your point that you was going to it? It looks as though we're adding 60.
Oh, I need more money for Hope.
And we're gonna give it to you. And $60 million is going directly into the current program. With the needs-based piece, you're gonna add 31 million additional on top of that. And then additional money for rural broadband, which is also your district. And then mental health care, we've all got that all over the state. And rural health. But if you'll look on line 52, the majority of this money to plug the hole that you're talking about is going to come from right sizing the shortfall revenue for the lottery. Now, that one is supposed to be, the law says you've got to fund it at least 50%. We're going to make it between 50 and 60% over a period of years. That's going to stand about $600 million into that shortfall that you're talking about.
Okay,
And
how
that's in
much
the Constitution.
currently, how much is the shortfall?
Shortfall is a little over 300 million,
So you're gonna put 60 million into a shortfall.
600 million. If we're going to bring the current over, we currently fund the shortfall at 128 million. It should be somewhere around 600 million.
So currently, we're only looking at 120 million shortfall. For us
No,
to fully fund the Hope,
300 million should fully fund the hope.
300 million gets us back to where we were.
Right.
Okay,
So this will fill half of the hold almost immediately whenever you pass this bill.
and where does the rest of the money come
So
from?
I would just say, so here's the problem we were trying to address, and we tried to attack it in two ways. One, with the help of the additional revenue that's going to be coming in, and that's $60 million that we'll put in from new revenue. The
Okay.
second piece was language that Representative Stacey Evans gave us that made adjustments to the Hope reserves so that we can adjust the reserves so that money is actually being distributed and not built up. And so that's the second piece there's about $600 million that we're gonna be able to tap in by lowering that reserve amount. And that'll be used to help backfill that $300 million shortfall, in addition to the $60 million worth of new revenue that'll be coming into Hope. So we're gonna be getting $60 million worth of new revenue every year specifically for Hope, plus the adjustments of the reserves are attacking the problems from two different ways. But Stacey, Representative Evans, was the one who pointed out the switch to the reserves would help free up more money to address the problem you have. I'm from a rural county as well. I understand some of the issues of our students not necessarily making it to the schools they want to, and not necessarily getting some of the scholarship funds. I sympathize with you on that. And that's why we're very deliberate in trying to address those problems in this legislation or this constitutional amendment.
Would the gentleman further yield?
Certainly.
Okay, you're saying I have a $1.2 billion reserve currently in Hope. And right now, what we want to do is take 50% of the reserve, which would be 600 million.
We have 128 million in the reserve.
We have 128 million in reserve. No, I think it's more than that.
It's more than that.
I think it's,
It's
I think it's
1.2.
1.
It's 1.2.
We're supposed to have 600 million.
There you go. Okay, we on the same page.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, don't confuse me. Because I'm trying to follow you. So, because what we did is that, is it not true then the 1.2 billion that we have in the reserve is money that has been built up over time? And when we changed the legislation, it was 10 years ago. We had some money in the reserve then, not much. Let's just say we had 200 million. So over 10 years, what we have done is that we have increased the reserve, just say on average, 100 million per year. So basically what we would be looking at, if we just work with those same numbers, about 100 billion new dollars going into the reserve every year. I'm getting another 60 million. So we will be looking at, on average, backfilling at approximately $160 million per year.
Plus,
Is that not true?
plus for the first time, we're going to have dedicated gap needs-based dollars and about $30 million that are going to be additionally sent out as well.
So what we get putting into the program now, according to these numbers, it's kind of about 190 to maybe 200 million a year. Okay. And we have a shortfall.
All right. So,
Well, now what I want to do now, I want to have understanding because I've been with this for a minute. And I do feel somewhat, I'm just seeing it. And basically I was in the office and got you on Zoom and I've been trying to follow you. So I said, I need to come down so I can ask a question. Where I'm going to be is approximately 100 or $200 million into hope. And what that does is that it leaves me still with about $100 million shortfall.
I would like to go over the numbers with you. We worked very hard to address that concern. I don't have those figures in front of me. Again, I know Representative Evans has been very passionate on this issue as well, on the regular hope, and not the, in addition to the Zell Miller. And so we worked a lot with her to make sure that she felt comfortable in the language we put in regards to the reserves would address the concern that you and her both share, as do I.
Okay, so I can be clear. Right now, what this bill would generate is approximately $200 million to go into hope.
I want to
3 million. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I can specifically mention to you what the revenue that is generated from the bill, from the new revenue that'll come in from sports betting. I don't have the numbers in front of me for the reserve. I would like to be able to work with you on that and look at that number as well. What I can tell you today specifically is just out of the $150 million worth of new revenue we believe will be generated each year from the state, $90 million worth of that revenue is going directly, either 60 million for the Hope scholarships and 30 million for needs-based scholarships. That is, will be funded for the first time in Georgia. And I can tell you that our goal with the reserve language that we put in, based on Representative Evans' expertise and working on this issue year after year, was that the reserve language that we've put in here is language specifically from her that was meant to address the concern you've raised. But in terms of the specific dollar amounts for the reserve, I'm sorry, I don't have those here with you, but I'll tell you the problem you've raised is a problem we tried to solve.
And I do appreciate that, because that is a real issue for me and the kids that I represent in Miller, Baker, and Seminole, who gets no Zell, and with the poorest parts of the state.
I agree with you. I share my concerns with you too.
That's my other concern. That's my primary concern. But then I also have a concern as we get to the point of this is going to generate revenue. And it's going to generate revenue not only for the people of the state, but also for the people who's running the games.
Mm-hmm.
So my other concern is this, because I haven't had an opportunity to look at it, but they told me coming from the Senate side that there was consideration for minority participation that exceeded what we had for the Zell Miller when it was passed in 1992. I know I have given some language that I thought addressed the need that I had and many of the members in our caucus have. And I was wondering, had that language been incorporated into this legislation?
In the constitutional amendment, we specifically put money in for the different scholarship opportunities. The current lottery statute makes clear that participants in lottery gaming should be encouraged, that they encourage minority participation. We have not specified a number of licenses. We just specifically said that if you meet these requirements, you can participate. So there's not a maximum number of licenses with only a limited number of people getting them, because we wanted to encourage as many people as we could to participate in this program if they can meet our requirements. And that's including certainly members of the minority business community.
yeah, and we've got several members with questions, so we can come back here in a minute. If you're okay. I'm going to recognize Chairman Houston. She Go ahead and then
Representative
Williams,
Dukes,
you'll be ready.
I want you to look at the other things that rural Georgia's getting, and maybe by getting the percentage that we're getting for rural broadband, that might help some of your students do better grades, and then they will get the Zell Miller Scholarship and with the health too. And the next thing, if you really want to help your children down in rural Georgia, get them to do the Pell Grant and fill out the Pell Grant. If you look at the number of students in rural Georgia that do not fill out the Pell Grant, and go back home and get them to fill out the Pell Grant, because that's money, federal money we're leaving in this state on the table and not taking. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of quick observations. And one thing from the front end, and I'm glad we're moving forward. I think it's imperative, it's extremely important that we move forward. I guess, especially being in a minority, you never get everything you want. But I'm not excited about the 21%. I'll be very honest with you. That does not excite me. It helps, but it doesn't make me wave the flag. And but however, I've lived here 18 years in this legislature, and I don't get to wave the flag often. And another part that I'm very concerned about is, I know we're doing this constitutional amendment, and that's good, but I spent a lot of years with us saying one thing and the money gets funny at the end thing. We put money into the tire fund for years. And God bless his sainted soul, to our departed chairman of Ways and Means, put a bill in. We never seem to have gotten the money to where we designated it to be. And I just want to be assured that the words I'm reading is the action I'm going to get, because that has not been the case in this legislature. We took $2 a tire for year after year after year. Tires piled up, the $2 went nowhere. We got millions out of the tobacco fund, little bit to healthcare, big bit to everything else in the budget. That's, I don't like, and I like the bill that now makes us say what we're going to do. I'm not happy because I don't feel assured. And as far as the license is needed, you know, my thing is, I'm trying to get past this because you know where my heart is. But I think that we never seem to manage, and I'm going to support this, but we never seem to manage to get to the point that we can just say, we're going to do this for minority business, bang. We always say all business, and that means we get left out because the commission is going to be important. And I just want to be assured the commission is going to look like Georgia for a change. Because if it don't look like Georgia, then it's not going to treat us like Georgia.
So I wasn't specifically mentioning a new commission when I referenced minority business participation. I was referencing there's current definitions that we can point to when we take up Senate Bill 142 that currently exist in our lottery statute for protection for minority business participants who want to operate lottery games as they exist today. And I'll be glad to point those lines out for you in the Senate bill. But the Georgia Lottery Corporation exists today, already specifically has provisions and business practices they do. And this new lottery game would have to follow those same requirements.
One final point, and I promise you I'm finished. But we certainly, and the gentle lady from the Pell standpoint, I agree. But the problem with Pell is poor folk can't go to school on Pell because they can't close the gap. I got minority kids at every HBCU in this state that drop out of college because they can't come up with $300. That doesn't sound like anything to people in here. But when folk have nothing and mama works as a dishwasher, they can't send $50. So Pell We need to close the gap for real. Where kids can go to school and not drop out because they owe less than $1,000, something some of us we throw away in shoes. They can't stay in college because they don't have that gap. The gap has to be closed. And I like to talk about the gap being closed. That has to be done. The only thing and we need to on these bills. I know it was quick and it was fast and everything. And I know we're in the minority, and he who has the gold makes the rules. But every once in a while, we need to help with the language when the bill is being, just tell me. I used to have a problem when I was involved deeply working full-time in the civil rights movement. My Northeastern liberals never asked me where my arm hurt. They'd say, you need work on your right arm. I said, hell, my left arm is falling off. No, it's your right arm that hurts. And we get a chance to have most say in the language. It's a lot smoother here. I'm through.
I understand it, and I certainly appreciate the insight, and something that we tried to do is, this did get broad bipartisan support. The Senate measure did, and we tried to track their language in terms of how they spoke about the needs-based scholarships. But just to be clear, this will be the first time that we have dedicated revenue for needs-based scholarships, and it'll be at the amount of $31 million for the gap. To help close that gap. And I think that'll go a long way in closing that $300 or $1,000 gap. You talked about $31 million is significant, and it's only going to grow in our state.
All right, on Zoom, we have a question from Representative Hobson, and we will recognize her at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to make one comment. If you have a cup with a hole in it and you fill it with water, the water's still going to leak out. And so basically what I'm saying with that is I just don't feel comfortable with the numbers that are being thrown around right now. I think we need definitely more clarity as it relates to these numbers. And we really need to see this drawn out because, what if we have another economic downfall? Then those reserve monies have to be utilized for that. So there's no certainty in what we're seeing right now. Another thing is, why couldn't we put 40% towards the need-based options or the need-based monies, and then 20% towards hope? Because, I share some of those same areas with Representative Dukes, i.e. Doherty County. And we do see where there's a continuous shortfall as it relates to how the monies are dispersed in Southwest Georgia. So that's a huge problem for me. So whenever this does come up to vote, I am still a no.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I can respond just a little bit.
Sure.
Representative, just keep in mind, these are new dollars. This bill, if it doesn't pass, the $700 million that's held in over reserve, if you will not be freed up for pre-K, and it will not be freed up for the Hope Scholarship. So keep that in mind. This bill frees that up so that it can be used, if you will. And, as far as the numbers go, and of course, that's a gradual thing, but this is brand new dollars on activities that people are doing today. Whether we like the breakout of where the money is going to go, it will definitely almost immediately fill about a $300 million gap. Won't quite fully fund Hope. It will not fully fund pre-K. But without this bill, nothing happens, and they continue without putting a ceiling on it. They will continue to put money in the reserve that is not needed.
Okay, thank you. At this time, Chairman Belton. Okay, state your motion.
I can make a motion to pass.
All right, we have a motion to pass. We have a second. And is there any discussion? Representative Dukes?
I do have concerns with it, but this is my greatest concern. You see, I'm not a guy who's here looking for reparation. I don't think I'm gonna get it anyway. And I sure don't want welfare. That's what my Georgia General Assembly check is. But when I get working down here with you guys and my family, I qualify for pennies. But what I am looking for is parity. You see, Jim did not just stop us from voting. He and the rest of the Crows had a very adverse impact on our community when it came to economics. He did. So what I would suggest to you is this. If you come back with deals where people are going to be making some money, we want our community included in the making of the money. You see, that's parity. That is, and what parity is this. I will do something for you if you will do something for me. We're just asking for what everybody else is asking for. We always say, we'll just put the money together and let it shake out. You see, the system that we live in is not broken. But what it did do, it broke us. That's the way it was designed. It is very difficult. Yes. We don't make no money. We have very little of the wealth here in this state, in this nation. The average Black family lives out of 67% gross median household income of that what a white family lives out of. That's in Georgia. Nationally, we have to live out of 59 cents to the dollar of what you got in your household. That's just the way it shakes out. So I'm not worried about what happened yesterday or last year or 200 years ago. But in going forward, let us create a system where that everybody, not looking for reparations, but for opportunity to participate. And the way that the system is structured, unless we specifically say we're going to include, we always get excluded. This is from a man in South Georgia who is celebrating 70 years of being in the construction industry. My dad had started in 1951, and it's been tough. But we don't compare, complete, and plan. We thank the Lord for all that he's been able to do for us. But it is time for a change.
All right, Chairman Nix.
Yes, sir. Did I understand you to say that almost immediately you'll go in and take out about 50% of the reserves?
No, it's a step method. The first 3 years, it goes down to like 85%, and then it goes to 65%. The floor and the ceiling, if you will, is 50 to 60%. So it goes over several years to start pulling that immediately. It'll probably be about 250, 300 million.
Another follow-up.
Okay.
So what happens when we get to that point, when we have the shortfalls like we had a few years ago, when you get to that real painful point where you got to go and cut stuff? Now, this gambling is not going to be a source of money that's going to last forever, and it's not going to fund everything. Nobody's ever told me how much it takes to fund the Hope Scholarship, because as the funding dollars come in, we're always chasing it out there. And it really concerns me that we would reduce the reserve fund. We don't reduce our rainy day fund unless it's really, really, really a difficult situation.
And again, we don't reduce the fund and below what the current law is, which is 50%, the floor, and we just add 60%. So there's a mechanism here that kicks into play whenever we do get to that point, if we get to that point, that kicks it into play so they start taking the money back into the reserve. But it places, instead of the sky's the limit, it does put the money back into the people's pockets for education purposes, instead of continuing to.
Representative Allen, did you have a question?
Yeah, so mine should be pretty quick and straightforward, but on line 133 on the question, it doesn't specifically call out online sports betting. And my concern by not calling that out is you're leaving it open to basically constitutionally authorized sports books.
So that definition will be defined in the enabling legislation.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
And we have online Representative Neal. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought that we changed the language to I thought we changed the language, the actual question. I thought we changed that before, if I'm not mistaken. Or was that under the House bill?
I don't mind changing that question.
Yeah.
If we want to change
If
it.
people want to change the question, we're open to that. So
All right, we have a motion and a second to, on SR 135 at this point. And if there was going to be an amendment to that language during this discussion point, this would be the appropriate time for that amendment to be made. What is the will of the committee? Representative Allen?
I would like to move that we amend on line 133 to include the word online, so as to authorize online sports betting.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second to amend SR 135 to include online sports betting on line 133. All right, so we're going to go down the list and we'll do a roll call vote on this since we have members that are online and in person. So I'm going to start Representative Allen.
Mr. Chairman, can
Yes,
I
sir.
just, I'm looking at how we define it in the bill and we talk about online sports wagering. Would y'all accept that as a friendly amendment to just say online sports wagering?
Yeah.
Okay,
To keep it
so
consistent.
Representative Allen, you're going to basically retract that amendment.
Retract that and move to amend line 133 to add online and strike betting ad wagering.
Yeah, online sports wagering.
Online sports wagering. Okay, and we already had the second from Chairman Nick. So again, we're going to go through the roll call vote on this. Representative Allen,
Yes.
Representative Blackman, Representative Burns, Representative Evans,
Yes.
Representative Gunner, Representative Hogan, Representative Houston, Representative Mallow,
Yes.
Representative Neal,
Yes.
Representative Parrish,
Yes.
Representative Robichaud, Representative Yurda, Representative Sains, Representative Belton, Representative Bonner, Representative Dempsey, Representative Gravely, Representative Hatchett,
Yes.
Representative Holmes, Representative Jones, Representative Marin,
Yes.
Representative Randy Nix, Representative Pruitt, Representative Smith, Vance Smith, Representative Bennett, Representative Burnett,
No.
Representative Dukes, Representative Green, Representative Hitchens, Representative Hobson,
No.
Representative Lopez, Representative Marie Metz, Representative Paris, Representative Rhodes, Representative Williams. All right, with that, the motion carries. Now on to the vote to approve SR 135 as amended. And we already have a motion and a second to do that. So we'll go through the roll call vote on this. Representative Allen,
Yes.
Representative Blackman, Representative Burns, Representative Evans,
Yes.
Representative Gunter, Representative Hogan, Representative Houston, Representative Mallow,
Yes.
Representative Neal,
Yes.
Representative Parrish,
Yes.
Representative Robichaud, Representative Yurda, Representative Sains, Representative Belton, Representative Bonner, Representative Dempsey, Representative Gravely, Representative Hatchett,
Yes.
Representative Holmes, Representative Jones, Representative Marin,
Yes.
Representative Nix,
No.
Representative Pruitt, Representative Smith, Representative Bennett, Representative Bruno,
No.
Representative Dukes, Representative Green, Representative Hitchens, Representative Hobson,
No.
Representative Lopez, Representative Metz, Representative Paris, Representative Rhodes, Representative Williams. All right, motion carries. All right, now we'll move on to Senate Bill 142. And Mr. Chairman, if you'd like to present that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 142 is very, very similar to what we passed out of this committee before overwhelmingly. If you will, I'll go through each section rather quickly and just stop me at any point. If you'll look on page 2, section 1, it sets forth the definitions of the lottery by adding, as we saw earlier in our amendment, online sports wagering platforms to the list of lottery games. It isn't just another lottery game. Page 6, section 1-2, there is no changes there. The big change that or the big add that's on this bill is the same one that we had in the House bill. It's starting on page 8, section 1-3. This is the Representative Stacey Evans language that right sizes our lottery reserve. As you can see, it steps it down to a minimum and maximum of 50 to 60%. And like I said, today we're at 128%. And it doesn't do it overnight. It gradually steps it down, as you can see, to 85%, then 75%, then on and on until the year 2025, it gets between 50 to 60%. And then there's some mechanisms to kick it in whenever it falls below, and of course, kick it down whenever it gets above. Beginning on page 11, section 2, line 259, this bill adds college sports. As y'all might remember, the only thing that we had in our bill was professional sports. We've added college sports, which is what the Senate sent over. You'll see on the adjusted gross income line 243, it is the same except for the federal excise taxes was accounted for, where in our bill it was not. So that is a pass through. The master's language, which is on line 291, it specifically makes sure that they're an event, which is a little different than you might have the NFLs. The PGA and the Masters in Augusta are, they're a different event. They're not included into the Masters. So this allows them the language, if you will, to supply that language. So they're not inhibited. Line 322 says, as we emphatically said in this committee, there shall be no pari-mutuel betting or fantasy sports. And part 3 talks about the licensing requirement being no minimum or no maximum of the vendors that contract directly with the lottery. It sets forth application requirements. The application fees are exactly the way that we had in our bill. We've started off with an application fee that's non-refundable for $100,000, and that's on line 485. And the licensing fee is going to be $900,000. You have temporary licenses as you're trying to get somebody that has a history of this to set up as a temporary license as they move on to their annual license through the lottery chairman. Line 528 talks about people who are not eligible to be a licensee, and there are several of those. And the lottery shall make and prescribe the rules and regs. Part 4, persons that are, talks about line 604. Persons that are not eligible to make a wager. Line 657 talks about the penalties for making an illegal wager. And as you might remember, they added in the Senate, they added credit accounts and things. We still believe that we shouldn't do that. We should not allow those companies to extend credit or either bet on a credit card. So bank transfers, debit cards, and online mobile payment systems or any method approved by the lottery, but no credit cards. Ladies and gentlemen, that's important. And I hope that you'll stick with our bill and agree to that on our bill. Line 760 talks about gambling addiction language and how it's reported to the lottery. The lottery, not DBHDD, of course, is going to handle that. And they already have, I want to say they spend like $400,000 a year in gambling addiction. Line 832 talks about the language regarding the data protection. As you might recall, in our bill, the pro teams are the ones that control the data. This particular bill says that all data shall be considered so that it's not exclusionary. 832 also is structured in a way that should allow for Augusta to have its data protection. And I get back just a minute ago about the masters. And that also carries over to line 844 with a carve out. In our bill, as you might recall, we tax online sports wagering at 20%, which is different than the Senate. And it gets us to the numbers where we think we need to be. Part 6 talks about the annual report for licenses. And there's more language regarding investigations of the licensee by the lottery. And then, of course, we've got the process, the recourse process for the licensee in case they run into a problem. Part 7 talks about the wagerers or the bettors' rights. And of course, Section 4 talks about the constitutional amendment authorization language. That's running through the bill pretty quick, but Mr. Chairman, I can tell you that most of the bill is exactly the way that we passed out of here overwhelmingly. We've added some other safeguards in here as well. So I'll answer any questions on the bill.
All right, Representative Saines.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think the majority whip stated in an earlier legislative day, the perfect should not preclude the good. And I think there's anything this complex is going to have different opinions on certain elements. I have, out of respect for the other members of committees who have questions, I have three separate questions on 3 separate sections. Would you like me to go just do one or do all 3 at one time?
Well, real quick, if you'll run through
All right.
those. Yep.
On beginning, fantasy definition on line 264. It has it notes on 264, players compete against each other. I know there's a Georgia-based company and the industry of utilizing the computer for competition. Would it be amenable to the author to change this to a language more reflective of there is a, instead of players compete against each other, to there is a competitive element? That way it would not preclude that that kind of fantasy computer-based competition.
So you would say
Right.
fantasy or simulate contest means a game or event in which there's a competitive element?
That or just taking out players compete against each other. I don't know if the competitive element's necessary. And again, that's just a sincere question. I don't know if it has implications through the system that I'm not aware of, but if there's a way to include those, that
I would think that they would still be included in our definitions elsewhere in terms of people competing in other parts of the bill. I'm not necessarily sure the change is needed.
okay.
I'll make a commitment to you to look at
Thank
the
you.
specific language with you.
On line 317 on page 13, and Chairman Stevens, you referred to the collegiate sport. I think there are probably going to be other questions on that. My specific question is about student safety. I liked the version we passed in the House because frankly, it dealt with players that are getting paid as professionals to do this. Now we're talking about collegiate athletes who are volunteers other than getting a great college education in the state of Georgia. Have we looked at the safety implications? I know Ohio State just recently had to deal with it by getting threats, and I won't even go into the other issues of those threats. But what tools are we given to colleges on the safety of these students now that we're putting a lot of money behind their performances?
I'll tell you one thing. Look, I think being a college athlete myself, there's already pressure from you, on you, And the biggest thing I think to remember when we talk about this concept is this type of betting is going on in Georgia today with zero protections. So people are betting on college sports today in Georgia. And what we need to do is we need to encompass that element in a very well regulated measure so that you don't encourage people to have two platforms. If we don't make provisions for colleges in this measure, people are still going to have two platforms. One that's well regulated and we get the revenue from, and then one where they can bet on colleges in the black market. We've talked specifically with leadership of the legislature in Tennessee, and they have made provisions for full access to college in their legislation, and they said it was one of the most important things they did because it eliminated the black market app participation. And we want this to be done in a very well regulated way. And I'll tell you, Tennessee has not experienced those concerns.
All right.
Okay.
In addition to that, keep in mind that on college sporting events, for those students that are on campus, you can't place a legal bet in Georgia if this passes, if you're under 21. Now, if you're on the black market out there, which will continue to operate, they don't care. But our market's regulated, 21 or under. You can't do that.
I appreciate and I appreciate the well thought out response. And so I won't go into the subject of collegiate athletes. I just hope what if this goes into the bill and we see what happens of it. I don't want to deal with speculation, that we make sure to act quickly if there needs to be some added safety tools for these students. My final question,
and I would say with the $100 million worth of new tuition fees that our colleges and universities are going to be getting, we know that they use those tuition dollars to help not only educate students in the classroom, but for purposes outside the classroom. And so it will be a new revenue source for them as well to expand public safety and things around their college campuses.
That's a great note. Thank you. Final question, which would have been on line 844. A lot of the rationale of me changing my position, I know maybe some others, is that what the majority whip referred to as the dark market, and the testimony we heard on the off session that the chairman led on the inability for our law enforcement, for most law enforcement, to regulate that dark market and the safety implications it comes to Georgia consumers on this. I know a lot of the use of the official league data is a major component for those leagues to provide a safe platform. I don't, again, not letting the perfect get in the way of the good. I can still support this without it because I know there's externalities that we need to study in more detail, but I would hope if we pass that without it, that we come back after we understand that the limitation that most leagues would have in other states, what happens in Georgia without it, that we react quickly to that as well.
No, I appreciate that. And I would say, look, nothing here would prohibit an operator from wanting to use the official league data. And I think that would be something that many of the platforms would want to do. Again, we're just trying to, because they do have the best data, but here we were just certainly trying to encourage the participation.
All right, Representative Allen.
Just very similar to what Representative Saines was talking about. At the appropriate time, I would like to make a motion to remove the college sporting, but I'll let the rest of the questions go for it.
Chairman Nix.
Thank you. Mine has to do with that as well. I'm a little bit confused though. You keep talking about as if we've got two competing bills here. We're voting and this is what's going before the House if it passes. The other one is not fitting into this, but you keep talking about what our bill was versus this.
The Senate bill was changed essentially to look like our bill did, if you will, the one that we passed out of this committee, which never made it to the floor, but the provisions that were in our bill are in this bill. Except
for the addition of college sports and a few other distributing all this money that's coming in. And I told Al, he was worried about how it was going to be distributed. I think y'all are going to bring the apostles in to distribute the gambling money, right?
All right, Chairman Houston.
On line 244, I don't remember us having federal excise tax in that. Why are we paying the federal excise tax?
That's as the chairman said, a pass-through expense, but generally it's just been a policy of this legislature not to make individuals pay taxes on the federal taxes they already pay. That's traditionally been a deduction that we allow for a host of different industries, and we're just being consistent with that. The fact that they're just, when we're talking about what truly is income, we know that they're specifically having to pay this federal excise tax. That's clearly not income as what I generally consider income.
Well, maybe I just don't understand it. That goes to the federal government.
Correct. They pay taxes on,
So we, in essence, we're gonna pay that.
we're going to allow them to take essentially a deduction for the taxes that they do pay in a different jurisdiction, the same way we do for every individual taxpayer in Georgia
And for every corporation,
and for every corporation.
we pay the excise tax for everybody.
We allow you to deduct the taxes that you pay in a different
Do other
jurisdiction.
states do this?
Most states have a much broader definition of adjusted gross income. We wanted to keep ours broad to capture more revenue.
Okay. Representative Paris.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, so I'm pretty much like everybody else. I've got a problem with the collegiate sporting event. I know that was something that the Senate added. We had talked about it during our meetings when we had our HB in front of us. You're essentially making money off of people that do not get paid.
They should. And we got to be able to fix that too.
And they should. And if it's not happening now, then when? The other thing that kind of baffles me is we keep talking about a black market. So to me, a black market means something that is unethical, not illegal. So what we're doing is we're taking a black market, painting it white by making it legal. And so now it's not a black market anymore. Just doesn't make sense to me. We got a lot of work to do, but I know that this train is rolling on, but I could not sit and be silent about it. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, Representative Gunner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Back on page 13, line 21, definition of sporting event. Other event authorized by corporation. The only limitation I see on that is the pari-mutuel wagering on horse racing or a fantasy or simulated contest. I mean, it's line 321, the last line on page 13. So, I mean, it could be any other kind of event. Unless you're counting the limiting term sporting.
We were trying to make sure that if there was a one-off type sporting event, that it wouldn't be missed by that. And, the corporation, they would have the ability to, through rules and regs, which of course we as legislators get to participate in that rulemaking and regulation process through the administrative procedures, that we would be able to do that. But I understand your concern.
Okay, and my second concern goes to page 36 and 37. This is what you and I have communicated about. When you go back to page 23 and 26, it sets out those as crimes. I don't have a problem with that. But then when you deal with the punishments on these two pages, 36 and 37, you're screwing up our Title 16 betting statute or wagering statute. So I think it's going to cause some problems in prosecution.
And that's certainly not the intent. I would tell you this was intended to be an additional penalty, not a replacement. This was going to be action that the corporation could take in the civil manner, in addition to criminal prosecution that could be taking place as well.
Well, I understand what you're trying to do, but the way the bill's drawn, you're making it a crime for an individual and a licensee to do these actions, and then you set out the punishment in here. So that's what's going to screw up the Title 16 wagering statute.
Hey, buddy.
I would, again, that was not the intent to undo our on the books Title 16 laws. It was supposed to be a tool for the corporation to do in addition.
Right, I'm just telling you, you can't do the addition. It's either or. If you have one that has less punishment, that's the one that's going to control.
And as we move through this process, I certainly will make the commitment to help address the members' concern there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Chairman Belton.
At the appropriate time, I'll make a motion.
All right, we have a motion from Chairman Belton on SB 142. Do I hear a second? And this is on LC 364838S. Is there a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion now? All right, Representative Allen.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to amend to strike lines 25 through 29, 259, 260, removing collegiate sporting, and also strike line 317.
And if I can just comment on that, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Again, I think it's important that we don't, that one of these activities are taking place in Georgia today. People are betting every day on college sports in an unregulated way. And if we truly want to end that practice, eliminating this from the bill won't eliminate betting on colleges. All it'll do is it'll eliminate the betting on colleges in a regulated manner. And that's why I think it's important. I share your concerns in terms of the name and likeness issues. As a college athlete, I certainly sympathize with that. And that's why we're working as a legislature to address that. And we have a bill, I think, that was hopefully going to have the Senate rules today in regards to letting these athletes be in a position to accept compensation in college. But I would say what we don't want to lose the big picture of is that betting on colleges is going on in Georgia today, and states that have had the best practices of eliminating unregulated online betting in their state have made provisions for colleges. And so I would ask you to vote against the amendment.
All right, we have a motion and a second on Representative Allen's amendment, which is to strike lines 259, 260, and 317. We're going to go down through a roll call vote on that. Starting Representative Allen,
Yes.
Representative Blackman, Representative Burns, Representative Evans,
Yes.
Representative Gunter, Representative Hogan, Representative Houston, Representative Mallow,
Yes.
Representative Neal,
Yes.
Representative Parrish, Representative Robichaud, Representative Yurda, Representative Sains, Representative Belton, Representative Bonner, Representative Dempsey, Representative Gravely, Representative Hatchett,
No.
Representative Holmes, Representative Jones, Representative Marin,
Yes.
Representative Nix,
Yes.
Representative Pruitt, Representative Smith, Representative Bennett, Representative Bernot,
Yes.
Representative Dukes, Representative Green, Representative Hitchens, Representative Hobson,
Yes.
Representative Lopez, Representative Metz, Representative Paris, Representative Rhodes, Representative Williams. All right, the amendment has passed. And with that, now we have a motion to approve Senate Bill 142 as amended. And we'll go down through the roll call on that as well. Representative Allen,
Yes.
Representative Blackman, Representative Burns, Representative Evans.
Yeah.
Representative Gunter, Representative Hogan, Representative Houston, Representative Mallow,
Yes.
Representative Neal,
Yes.
Representative Parrish.
Yes.
Representative Parrish, was that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Representative Robichaud. Representative Yurda. Representative Sains. Representative Belton. Representative Bonner. Representative Dempsey. Representative Gravely. Representative Hatchett.
Yes.
Representative Holmes. Representative Jones. Representative Marin.
Yes.
Representative Nix. Representative Pruitt. Representative Smith. Representative Bennett. Representative Bernot.
No.
Representative Dukes. Representative Green. Representative Hitchens. Representative Hobson.
Yes.
Representative Lopez. Representative Metz. Representative Paris. Representative Rhodes. Representative Williams. All right, with that, the motion carries and you have your bill. You can go to rules. And Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you'd like to say anything. This might be our last meeting of the year, or we may still be coming back for more, but I'll turn it back over to you.
You never know. There's all kinds of things out there. I just wanted to thank the committee so far this year for the wonderful work you've done, and we'll see where it goes, but thank you.